These men are vigilantes, volunteers, on the trail of human traffickers. And they're the only thing standing in the way of a people smuggling route worth hundreds of millions of dollars a year.
จุดนี้เป็นจุดที่ขนโรฮิงญาจากถนนใหญ่เข้ามากับรถตรงนี้ถอยรถแล้วก็ให้โรฮิงญาลงปุ๊บรถเขาจะกลับไปแล้วก็ผ่านด่าน
They set out for a grueling few hours march up into the hills overlooking Phang Nga. They know the traffickers use this route to skirt around checkpoints on the road. But they have to be careful. The gangs of people smugglers are armed and dangerous.
ปืน M16 เหมือนกันที่เช็คมานะว่ามีปืนเถื่อน M16 1 กระบอกแต่อาวุธปืนสั้นนี้เขาต้องมีแน่
They travel further up the path. The jungle is thick and the mountains steep. It's just a few hours' drive from the tourist paradise of Phuket, but we might as well be 1,000 miles away. The team are all volunteers, but they feel they have a duty to stop the human traffickers because no one else is.
เรามีความจริงใจที่อยากจะทำเพื่อประเทศเพราะการที่ทำงานตรงนี้ท่านมานิดท่านนายอำเภอเขารู้ว่าทำเพื่ออะไรตรงไหนเหมือนพวกผมรู้พวกผมก็อยากทำตรงนั้นให้ประเทศเรามีภาพลักษณ์ที่ดีไม่มีเรื่องแบบนี้ให้ต่างชาติได้ทั่วโลกเขามองเราในจุดที่ว่าเป็นประเทศที่ว่า
The vigilantes find a ripped dress in the style of a Rohingya Muslim woman. The rips indicate an assault. They think this was evidence of a rape, a fate that befalls many of the women on the human smuggling trail. And they say the traffickers have done much worse. One woman they rescued told them her husband had been murdered in cold blood.
เขาบอกว่าเขาพาสามีมาด้วยแต่สามีเขาก็โดนเชือดคอทิ้งที่รู้สึกว่าน่าจะเป็นที่คุระบุรีตอนที่ให้ล่ามมาสัมภาษณ์มาสอบนะเพราะว่าเดินไม่ไหวไงสามีเขาไม่สบายคือการที่ว่าไม่สบายเดินไม่ไหวนี่คือเป็นการถ่วงเวลาของพวกที่ขนไงมันเลยไม่เสียเวลามันก็ฆ่าทิ้งเอาพวกที่เดินได้อะไรไม่ต้องมีการถ่วงเวลามันพวกนี้มันต้องใช้เวลามันต้องให้เวลาน้อยที่สุด
The traffickers herd their human cargo up the mountains like cattle. We've just walked an hour through the thick jungle up this steep mountain. This is the path the Rohingya take to skirt around the checkpoint on the main road down below. It's the main checkpoint on the road going to the south, the only way they can get out of here. For us, this was pretty hard work, but for many of the Rohingya who come down here who've been starved in camps down on the islands along the coast, getting through this kind of jungle is virtually impossible. Rahina Begum knows how hard that journey is. She's an ethnic Rohingya from Myanmar. 7 months ago, she set out after paying the smugglers to get her to Malaysia. She was 4 months pregnant, but the smugglers showed her no mercy.
Hanna kole marere sajjana sana siangur boy sajjana ma da tinjon bishi gom ekjon bishi harap ite begoda marata kede bay hanna kole marade hata hole mare ne chole ei inda mortonne boyro hata hole motor her zaire ladi lole mare goy bade mai fender khani tani ani dile mare bishi jala jontran gore bade bat hana fina liye bishi dukaye to era moriyo gi
Rahina now lives in a detention camp. She was rescued by Thai officials just before she gave birth. But things could have turned out much worse. Hita te hana haluna fari ekor edti aitono de attono de bodak nedi taka bor din bor fuaita te kor girama biarama boda tudina fari hedru morigi. Like many others at the detention camp, Rahina paid just over $1,000 to be smuggled into Malaysia. Once in Thailand, however, she was held hostage in a jungle camp while the traffickers tried to extort more money from her family.
তো টিয়া গলা দেদি হিনারা তুলি ফেলে তারা টিয়া গলা নদী দিনারা রাজি তা আরাতে আমরা হতা হইতো হন্দিলা আরা তোমার গসা দিলে তো আরা টিয়া দিন দি
The civilian defense force team in Phang Nga know these camps are out there. They just don't know where. But they're setting out to try and find them. In the narrow creeks and rivers that run into the sea, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. Patrols currently going through these little waterways that crisscross through the mangrove, and you can see how easy it would be for the traffickers to hide thousands of people that they just brought down from Myanmar and Bangladesh. These are vast, unpopulated and inaccessible stretches of coastline. The vigilantes search as best they can, but the thick undergrowth makes it virtually impossible to see onto land. There are sites the traffickers have used before, where they're likely to return. This island has been used on and off for about 12 months. There's evidence everywhere: abandoned cases and clothes, products from Myanmar, coins from Bangladesh. The patrol advances with caution. They don't know what or who is also on this island. But the traffickers have moved on. Guiding the group is 22-year-old Raihan from Bangladesh. He says the smugglers forcibly took him after luring him to the coast with the promise of a new job. After 3 weeks at sea, he was brought here, where the smugglers sorted their human cargo into groups.
বর্মার মানুষ এক সাইডে রাখি দিছে আর বাংলার মানুষ এক সাইডে রাখিছে কারণ টেকনাফ সিরাগাঙ্গের বর্মার ভাষা তো মিলাইন না তো এখানে আর আলাদা রাখিছে বর্মার মানুষ আলাদা রাখিছে রাখি হাতের একটা বান্দি ফেলাইছে হাতের মধ্যে ওই দড়ি আছে না দড়ি দিয়ে বান্দি ফেলাইছে
His jailers were dividing the captives according to how much ransom they could raise. Those with skills, those with family in Malaysia, would be worth more. Others simply sold off as slaves. Raihan says he was shocked by the inhumanity of the traffickers.
এটা না জানি আতিয়ার আছে তো চুরি আছে এটা তো পিস্তল আছে বেশি বাড়াবাড়ি হলে তারা গুলি করে তে আরা যদি হানাল্লাই বেশি বেশি চিল্লামাল হাউমাউ করি না তে তারা চুরি বাই করে আমরা মুসলমান ধর্মের যারা আছি তারা
But some did, and Raihan shows me what he says is a grave where one of his group was beaten to death. And the vigilantes have made a similar discovery, not far from the main campsite.
คือบ่งบอกถึงเป็นหลุมศพก็คือเป็นหลุมศพที่มีเสื้อผ้าก็บ่งบอกได้ว่าอาจจะเป็นศพของผู้หญิงซึ่งบางครั้งที่นำเข้ามาอาจจะโดนทารุณกรรมหรือว่าโดนข่มขืนหรือว่าอาจจะป่วยอะไรอย่างนี้แล้วก็เสียชีวิต
But these volunteers have no power to investigate or detain. Why haven't the police or the army been to investigate?
ก็ที่เราทำคือเราเหมือนกับว่างานภาคประชาชนผมทำเท่าที่หน้าที่ทำได้มากกว่าผมไม่ได้ไปก้าวไก่อะไรของเขา
That's a huge frustration for the vigilantes. The police have set up a checkpoint on the main road going south, but they've done little else.
เหมือนพวกผมก็ทำงานลำบากในขั้นตอนหนึ่งพอถึงชั้นศาลชั้นตำรวจเราทำสำนวนส่งตำรวจส่งอัยการแล้วส่งศาลจากที่ว่าหลักฐานข้อมูลการสอบสวนอะไรของเราคือถ้ามองจริงๆแล้วมันชัดเจนมันสมควรที่จะตั้งข้อหาค้ามนุษย์ได้แต่ไปถึงชั้นตำรวจชั้นอัยการกลายเป็นแค่ข้อหานำพาหลบหนีเข้าเมืองแค่นั้น
And with the human trade now worth hundreds of millions of dollars, the obvious consequence is corruption.
ส่วนมากมันก็ผลพวงมาจากเรื่องเงินคอร์รัปชันคนระดับใหญ่เขาทำอะไรเงี้ยเราระดับน้อยระดับตัวเล็กแต่เรามีความจริงใจที่อยากจะทำเพื่อประเทศเพราะการที่ทำงานตรงนี้ท่านมานิดท่านนายอำเภอเขารู้ว่าทำเพื่ออะไรตรงไหน
Even so, in May of this year, the problem became too big to ignore. Mass graves were discovered on both sides of the Thai-Malaysian border that contained hundreds of bodies. Camps where the refugees had been held prisoner in bamboo cages. In Thailand, several high-profile arrests, including one of the generals who'd been in charge of stopping the traffickers. Even the gravesite we had been shown was unearthed. The body inside was of a woman. She'd been 4 months pregnant. In the light of these discoveries, we went to the Thai police to ask them why they'd allowed these atrocities to happen.
You found all of this information and evidence. Why has it taken so long for these investigations to happen?
I can say that it's so sad. Why we have to take so long time to run investigation. So that I tell you, Thailand has also problem. We can say that some police officer, some governmental official in the southern Thailand, perhaps they can negligence when something bad happen. Someone said that they can have a benefit or illegal profits from the case, but anyway now I can say that it's not a good way to look back why we have to take so long, why we just keep quiet to run investigation from the so sad thing happen. I think now is a good time for us to look forward and then do something really concrete to fix the problem. I think it's better to think like that.
It may be better for the police, but looking forward is pretty hard for Mohammed. 11 years old, he was kidnapped by the traffickers last September. Mohammed spent 2 months at sea and 1 month in the jungle before the group he was with were caught by the Vigilantes. He just wants to go home to his parents, but he can't. The government of Myanmar doesn't recognize the Rohingya's claim to nationality. While we're filming, someone calls for him. It's his mother.
Okay.
This is the first time he's spoken to her since he was taken from Myanmar.
Mama simon mama lagi dia mama erga made jonate ma lagi dia dalalama aro mama holu tor madir gore mone kala na de sur gore dori bade hole aro madir gore.
An 11-year-old boy, far from home, without his mum and dad. Mohammed doesn't want to let go. Mohammed might be eligible to go to the United States, but you can see he really just wants to go back to Myanmar. Several months after we met Mohammed, we returned to Phang Nga. He's now taking classes in a local school for migrants from Myanmar. It is some sort of normality, but there remains a gaping hole in his life. His parents are still far away, and his chances of seeing them in the next few years are small. The plight of the Rohingya refugees is now global news. But for all the government initiatives and pledges of aid, this little boy is still separated from the people he loves and relies on most.